to this video. In this video, I'm going to be explaining what I'm looking out for on UJ. Okay, so currently most people think that that UJ is just consolidating between here and then this point probably, right? So but that's not how I look at UJ. Okay, so UJ is one of the currency pair that is just the only currency pair that I trade. You can see it right here, and I so much understand it and so much love it. Okay, so I'm going to be showing you guys a little bit of something and then what I'm expecting and why I'm expecting it. Okay, so let's get to the video. Let me bring this out. All right, so now the first thing is I'm going to start from the last week. Last week I guess it started from, let me guess, last week started from when? Yeah, from 12. So let's mark this out. Last week started from 12, which is this point right here. So we are going to be analyzing what we have this week. Okay, so what I believe in UJ is markets often react from other blocks and breaker blocks for UJ. So now, how is that so? Okay, so we had more like a break of structure to this point, and then I knew that since we had a break of structure, I'm expecting market. If you go down to the lower time frame, you are going to find the inducements. All right, so I'm expecting market to react from where? From this point. Now I would have expected, someone would have been saying, oh, I'm expecting market to react from here. Why I would not expect market to react from here is that we don't have a good break of structure up here. As you can see, just the week. All right, so and this was where the market opened, this point right here. So what am I going to do now that the market has gotten to this? I will then go to the lower time frame. Okay, but before I go to the lower time frame, I need to understand where else is the market going to. If the market gives me what I'm looking for here, where else do I think the market is going to? I'm not just predicting the market, I'm just saying where is the probability of where the market is heading to. I know that where the market will be heading to is here, and then I was kind of certain with the things I've seen about UJ that market have to take this thing out. Since market didn't take this point out, market will have to take this point out. You understand? So if you go to lower time frame, you see that market took it out here on the 3-hour time frame. But then from this point, I knew that market will have to come and react on this other block down here. So let's go to the 3-hour time frame so you see what I'm talking about. All right, so you are free to speed things up in case the network is taking time to load up. All right, so now what can you see? Just like I said, I knew that market will have to come and take this point out. That is what I knew that would happen. Okay, so if market took this point out, what am I waiting for? There are 2 points I'm now waiting for. Okay, before I go and show you guys the lower time frame and then show you guys how I took the trade from this point and then got to this point. Okay, so now there are 2 things I'm waiting for market. Now the market have taken this thing out, this one is just the one for this week. Now pay attention, I want you to pause the one I was saying this point, just pause it in your head and now know what I'm expecting. So the market is going to open very soon. I'm expecting the market to either react now from this point. Why am I expecting the market to react from this point? Because as you can see, we had a clear break of structure right here. And where is the clear break of structure? From this point, sorry, from this point to this point. You can see that, right? That's a clear break of structure. So you see that market gives me something here, or the market will come all the way to this point. So whichever the market does, I'm going to take it, or even all the way to this one up here. But I'm just going to wait. I'm not predicting the market, I'm just going to follow the market. All right, so this is what we had for last week. Okay, the market price was up here, and then what did I do? I moved down to my entry point, which is the 15 minutes time frame. So you're going to see something on the 15 minutes time frame, because that's basically where I get the market structure shift, the inducement, the point of interest, and then the entry. Remember, as of last week when the market opened, where was it? You're going to see the gap. Okay, so let me move this. You can see this gap right here, right? So that was it. Then what am I now waiting for? I'll now be waiting for a market structure shift. That is just what I'm waiting for the moment market got to this point. Okay, now a lot of people say this is not a valid break. Yes, it is not a valid break, but this is equal high, and whenever we have equal high, it is reversal. But I'm not just entering because we had equal high. I will then wait for this point. To be taken out. You can also say this point, whichever it is. Let's use this one. And why this point down here? Because this is the low of that equal high. Okay, so when this was taken out, I call this MSS, and then I call this inducement. The first valid pullback. This is the inducement. So I'm going to call this. I like using pesos because I've made use of the currency before. All right, so then where is my point of interest? If this is my inducement, that means this breaker right here has been mitigated, right? If this is my inducement, this breaker has been mitigated. So where is the next point of entry? I don't make use of this thing because this one is not a valid low for me. The only valid breaker right here for me is this one here. Why? Because it is the low that resulted to this MSS. So any other thing here is none of my business until this one. And why did I choose this one right here? Because this is the move that has the displacement candle that took out this thing. So where did this move started from? This other block right here, from this green one. See, and then that is where I took my short from. I took my sell. And where will my SL be? At the next valid order block, which is up here. That is why I placed my SL right here. Okay, and then where will be my target? My target was down here. That is why one trade can give me enough money. How 1:18 RR, you see. So my target was down here, but then you see the way I got the first entry. Okay, so now what I'm now going to be looking for as market is coming to this point is the concept of continuation, which is break of structure. But then the problem now is that somebody will come here and say that, oh, break of structure, inducement, entry. I missed this one. Okay, another break of structure. Okay, inducement, entry. Market would have taken you out. Okay, another break of. That is not how it is done. Okay, break of structure of a significant point. You need to understand that, and trust me, you're not going to understand it just based on what I'm saying. You're going to understand it based on the work you put into this. And where is my significant point for me? It is the last break of structure for this part. This is the last break of structure for this part here. Where is the low that resulted to this break of structure? So let's call this the break of structure. That's the last break of structure. And where is the low that resulted to it? It is this point right here. This happened because of news. All right, so even though this is a manipulation, I'm then going to have this, and I want this to be broken right here. Nice. Now we're going to call this a break of structure, or you can call it double break of structure. But this is a significant break of structure because it broke this low that resulted to what? This break of structure up here, and not just any random point. And then after this break of structure, what's the next thing? The next thing is the inducement that formed, which is from this point. This is the inducement. Now after this inducement, where is the next point? The next point now is where we look for the point of interest. And then for this break of structure, many people want to make use of this point, but then this is not a valid point for me. Okay, this is not a valid point for me. Why? Because this is not the low that resulted to the break of structure. Now this is where the low that resulted to the break of structure is, and then you're going to see something now. And then this is the displacement candle that resulted to this double break of structure. This is the other block up here. As you can see now, what do you see? This is the other block. This is the low. You can see that everything is lining up in the same line, right? So what am I going to do? I'm then going to take it from here. You can see this one is very little. I'm then going to take it from here, covering up everything, including this this other block right here that caused this displacement here. Okay, So this is the cover of everything right here, just like this. But then if I'm going to take this trade, where will my SL be? Before I show it out, my SL, if I get an entry, this is where my SL will be here. Why will my SL be here? Because this is the next order block. You understand? This is another displacement move. Okay, let me show you. This right here is another displacement move, and this is the next order block. So my SL is going to be here. Many people will say, oh, your SL should be here, your SL should be here. Me, I like my own being here. I've back tested it and I've seen that it works and prevent you from being stopped out before the main move. And then what we have here right now, so you can see, let's stretch this. Nice. And then my SL is here. You can see. So if I had my SL here, I would have been struggling. Oh, market is coming to do me this. Oh, market is coming to do me this. But then keeping it here is enough for me. All right. So where will now be my target? My target will be the same place I was targeting right here. And then that was how I was able to get this 2 trade. You see. But then when this trade came here, I didn't trust it. But because I saw this, now I've gotten this 2 for the week, you understand? So I already made profit from this and profit for this. Then when this thing came here, I was like, okay, this is a market structure shift, but where is this reacting from? Nothing really. I was like, okay, no problem, I'm not going to take this. But then when I now saw this thing, this is another continuation. This is a break of structure, and then this is a high. All right, and then this high took out this one, and then this is another high. Now this now becomes the valid one, because this right here, from this point to this point, is a what? It's a break of structure. And then where is the high that resulted to that break of structure? Here is the highest point. And then we have this right here, break of structure. Now, if we had this break of structure, the next thing is the inducement, which is right here. This is the inducement. And then the final thing is now the order block. And what resulted to this push up here? It is this order block right here. Now, you are now going to be wondering, where will I now target this thing to? Okay, so this thing entered this point and then ranged a bit. So your question will now be, where will I target this thing to? That is where I move to the 4-hour time frame to look for the other block this thing will potentially bounce off of. So let's go and look for it on the 4-hour time frame. Now if you look at the 4-hour time frame, this is what we are looking at. There is an order block right here. This is how I lost the trade. Okay, then if we move down to the 3 minutes time frame, because this was the trade I lost, I didn't actually trust where the trade was coming from, but because I saw the continuation, I wanted to take it. So my target was here. My target was here, 1:7. But then the market gave me 1:5, and then reversed. As you can see, it reversed and took me out, because this was my target. And then if you go down to the 15 minutes time frame, you can see the point where the market took me out, even after giving me 1:5. That is why it is important to book some profit. So just, you can fast forward this point. Okay, so you can see it right here. The market took me out at this point. All right, so that's why it is important to always take some profit out of the market. And then finally it came and broke this point. I said that it will break. Right now that this point is broken, what's the next thing now we're expecting? Now there are possible things that can happen in this place right now. So I'm just going to, first of all, I don't like a lot of things on my charts. I'm just going to delete this and then move over to the 4-hour. Right now I want to show you guys what I'm expecting for the week. Okay, nice. Now first is that there is an order block right here where I think the market is reacting from, and then there is a breaker block right here. There is a breaker block because this is a value break. There is a breaker block, let's call this one the breaker block right here, and then there is an order block up here. Okay, and then down here, this was the break of structure, and then this was the inducement. That means this other block is still very valid, so there is also an other block down here. All right, so now with this point marked out, where do I think the market is going to come to, and what do I expect? All right, so I'm just thinking in probabilities. All right, so what I'm expecting is the market would have given us a market structure shift here. The market would have given us a market structure shift here, but then since the market didn't give us anything right here, there are two things I'm going to be expecting. One is to get a market structure shift here. If I get a market structure shift here and I take a trade, I'm not going to be expecting the market to take this thing out. You know why? You know why I'm not going to be expecting that? Sorry, what's happening? Alright, I think that was network. Alright, good. So I'm not going to be expecting the market to take this out. You know why? Because on the 4-hour time frame, this was just wicked. So I'm going to be very careful. If I'm going to take a trade off of this point, I'm going to be very careful. Once I see a market structure shift, I'll jump out. All right, but if I don't see anything at this point, I'm then going to wait for a break. If I see a break, I'm then going to take a trade to this point, and then probably, be very careful also to this point. And then if the market decides to continue, I'm then going to take a trade up to this point and then to this point. All right, so I'm not predicting the market, I'm just following the market. All right, so right now if you go to the 15 minutes time frame, these places are possible points of entry for me for the week. All right, so how I do mine is I just open the chart in the morning, I analyze it. Once I'm done, I'm going to set alerts at different points, knowing what each alert means. So once the alert comes to my phone, I'll just open trading view and update it, and then out. So I love to study, sleep, or watch movie, whatever it is. We can fast forward this point. All right, so you can see now right here when the market came here. Okay, so most people are going to be calling this the market structure shift, but honestly to me it is not a market structure shift. Where we might be getting the market structure shift is this point. You understand? So let's say that this was the point. Let's call this is MSS, and then we call this inducement. Okay, and then this is, now as you can see, this is a very big word. This is a very big breaker block, but then there is an other block here. Okay, so I'll take the other block, and then my stop will be at the entry of this one. Probably the same thing with this one, but then you can see that if I'm to take this trade now, it is not a good risk to reward for me because I don't know what is going to happen at this point. So that's why I'm not planning on taking this trade. That's why I'm going to wait. So if the market eventually gives me a market structure shift right here, something that looks like this, the market comes here, does this, and then come and take out this, and then gives me this. Either take out this or maybe equal to this. I'll then take this from here, and then I'll be very careful enough to take it all the way to this point. You see? And then if it decides to continue and take out this low, I'll then wait for another one down here, and then continue to this point. So however it is, I'll be very, very careful with the market. We are going to be getting a lot of opportunity this week, but then those opportunities are going to be short-tempered because you don't know exactly what the market wants to do for us. So yeah, that is it for you, Jay. If you found this video helpful, just come back to my DM or the comment section and say whatever it is, then I can improve on that. Thank you.